Hello, everyone, and welcome to another DNA podcast.
My name is Eamon,
And my name is Dan.
and you've made it another week.
Hell yeah, we didn't last week. Whoops.
Yeah, we didn't. I wasn't feeling too well.
Yeah, and I had uni commitments, which I do still, but that's fine.
Believe it or not, we have lives outside of the podcast. Crazy.
It's almost like we record once a week. And it
Yeah.
only really takes about 2 hours tops, but
Depending on how good or bad the episode is. But
that's true.
yeah.
I mean, there are some short ones that I like that we have actually.
Yeah. Well, today's one, what are we going to talk about?
Okay, so we're talking about good and bad. So
Or good and evil, yeah.
good and evil, yeah. So what classifies? But before we start, I guess we should classify: is it a good and evil in a person, or good and evil in like situations?
Well, I guess my question was initially going to be, do you believe in an inherent good and evil? Or do
Well,
you, like, I don't know. I see there being a position of things just are, and it's a matter of perception. But
mm,
I guess there has to be a good and evil, right? Like there are definitely just evil things.
I mean, I guess nowadays we do have a moral standard which we abide by. So we do have the morals, and then we have the opposite of the morals, which would be like what the negative or the evil would be in. Um, and we do have people who would work according, like, would work with malice to achieve something, and that's what we consider evil. But like from their standpoint of view, would be like they would be working towards something for themselves.
Yeah, they're doing good for themselves. Where it's like,
Yeah.
evil. Like, you could put it in the capitalist point of view. You're making money by taking money off someone else.
Yeah.
That's very simplistic.
Well, yeah.
View, but like,
There's a good in evil.
yeah, like maybe it's just there is no inherent good and evil. It's just like the balancing act of every action, maybe.
I guess, but see, there is a question, hey, because if you think about it, you have an inherent good, which is like a person who would be acting selflessly. Well, I guess the way a lot of people see it is you have the good, which acts selflessly, and then we have the evil, which acts in a selfish manner. But I don't know when we actually started to define these things as good and evil in a sense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like in Australia anyway. I'm pretty sure, like Christian country, it's derived from religion. I'm pretty sure we look at like the Ten Commandments, like thou shalt not kill, and go killing's bad, killing's evil. Put those people in jail, like, and that's how that started.
Yeah, but if we go back to money, that has no ties to religion. Oh, I guess stealing.
Yeah,
But then you have someone who like hits someone in the street. That is like, I don't know, considered evil in a way.
I guess.
It's not murdering someone, but it's like an act of a negative act, which we usually attribute to evil or suffering, I guess.
I guess if one exists, if evil exists, then there has to be the other.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's I guess that's one thing that we have learned from a lot of the books. If there is a good, there has to be an opposite. So there has to be an evil, and vice versa. But if you don't have one, then you wouldn't have the other. You would just be a permanent state of neutrality, right?
Yeah, and that's that was my original thing. Is like everything seems natural. I like. Nah, that's very.
Everything
Murder
is
is
natural,
definitely
but
evil. There is definite evil in the world, and there's definite good in the world, right?
well, yes. Now we can actually like look at it and see those derivations. But if we go back a few years ago, when these morals weren't around, that they wouldn't be considered good or evil. It would just be considered an act that happened. And obviously, there's grief that surrounds, for example, murder. But I don't know. Maybe it's an evolutionary sense.
Yeah.
That would make sense because um, I believe us as humans started like grieving, for example, a murder back in like prehistoric dates for, let's say, let's throw a reason there. If a man doesn't come back to the tribe, then you have one less hunter. If you stayed at a family and your partner dies or is murdered, then you have one less member to your family and one less person to provide. So I guess in an evolutionary sense, in an animalistic sort of sense, it makes sense for us to grieve something that used to provide.
Like the good is the thing that's beneficial for like good, like a large number of people.
Mm-hmm. But don't you reckon that's inside evil because you're purely thinking animalistically and selfishly? Because
I guess. See, I heard the word selfish here, and I'm like, is this? Do you reckon it's good time to talk about the idea that it's impossible to commit a selfless act, a completely selfless act? Because, like, to some degree, you have people who volunteer or do quote unquote selfless things, but like to some degree, they do it understanding that they will feel better.
see, but there are people who would do it
And
and they don't feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
I've come across the idea of someone who just does it because it's an opportunity and they do it,
it's
and
a duty almost.
yeah, well, not a duty, just because the duty relates to the idea that is a positive thing. But if there is no duty and you just go help these people, you may feel happy about it, but like
Yeah.
I believe that if your initial feeling was not to be selfish, then it doesn't really matter. And does it really matter if you even taking a selfish stand to something that is volunteering related?
Oh no, I don't think it matters at all. I kind of just think it's an interesting. We say a selfless act, but like
Yeah, I don't actually think it's that selfish anymore, because there are definitely people who do things that, for a matter of fact, they wouldn't even care about. So
Right.
they acting selflessly without caring about it. I don't know. If someone's rich enough, they can like probably just pour money into something just because they believe it's something right, but not really look into it or not really actually care about the inherent ideal
I guess
of
you're
it.
right. It's a selfless act.
It can be. It can be selfish as well, and that's probably
Well,
the
that's
majority of it.
I guess the word selfish has such a negative connotation in this discussion, but like in that regard, there's still like a little bit of selfishness in that, like you feel good giving to other people, and that the idea of completely selflessness is
Yeah, but do you always have to feel good by giving to people? I've done a volunteering thing which I didn't really feel good about. I just
No.
went.
That's
Just
what I mean.
because
No,
the opportunity was presented, I did it, and I was like, "Yeah, that's chill."
no, and that's what I mean.
Went home.
Yeah, it's just a thing that you did.
Yeah, no duty, no anything. It was just something that happened, basically.
Yeah, it's just something to do.
And I guess you can call it selfless, but it doesn't feel selfless because I didn't do in like a feeling of goodwill. I just did it. So I don't know. It definitely wasn't selfish. It didn't help me at all.
But there must have been some like reason you chose it over doing something else, right?
Not really. I just didn't have much to do, so I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, okay, I get you. It provided some sort of like entertainment value or like
I guess
an activity
while
to
I
do.
was doing it, but like the idea of it never came.
Yeah, no,
And then
like this is what I'm. It's like it doesn't have to be a conscious,
no, but the closing of
selfish
it,
decision, but like
but something that becomes something can't become selfish though. That's what I
no,
don't think it
no,
happens.
it doesn't become selfish. I guess what I'm trying to dig at is is it possible to do something completely and fully selflessly.
I believe so, because this
Yeah.
initial thought is the selfless or selfish
Oh, like
act.
with
What
selfless,
happens?
with selfless intent.
What
Yeah.
happens? Not even selfless intent. If you don't even have a selfless intent, but you accidentally do a selfless act, that's a selfless act, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, if you just do it by accident.
Yeah, someone trips, you're like, oh, sorry, man. You pull someone up,
Yeah.
you continue walking. It
you,
doesn't change your
you,
life at all.
you drop $10.
Hey, man, here you go.
That's what I guess. I guess it's a selfless act. Like you just drop some money by accident.
I feel like the money one is mostly selfish, actually.
well,
Because
like
you're
if it,
like,
if it
I'll give it back so that person feels good. But like helping someone up never really changes your day, for example.
Yeah.
You don't inherently feel good afterwards. You're just like, yep, it's done. They up. And you
Yeah.
forget about it.
I get you.
While giving someone money back, I'll probably remember for like
Oh, no,
years to come.
No. I was taking the word accident, and I was thinking of like you being the person dropping the money, and someone picking it up,
I see.
and you accidentally dropped the money. You didn't even know you lost it until like hours later. And like I guess it's a selfless act.
That's true.
Like that's a fully.
If you're
selfless
just like,
act,
oh
right?
yeah, I lost money. I guess. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Is that
'Cause I still have-
unintentional?
Because I still have quarrels with the helping someone up. Because I know I feel good after I help someone up. It's like, oh yeah, no worries, man. Like, glad I could help or something.
I don't. Am I a psychopath? I don't care for it. That's how I was raised. So
Yeah,
it's just natural to do it.
Right? I mean, intrinsically same, but like that's what I mean by like that sense of duty. Like probably that plays a good part where you're like, oh, that's just how I am. That's just what I do. That's just the way to live.
Yeah, that makes it not selfish?
Yeah, no, that's what I like. When we initially started the conversation, it was like, I like that introduction because I think it does make it selfless.
Yeah, I guess.
Because it's like you're going to pick that person up, even if it just fully inconveniences you for like, and you're just doing it. That's just part of your like. It's like I wake up and I get out of bed. It's not like.
Yeah, it's just natural enough for you to just be like literally, to just be literally instinctual thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I believe there is selflessness to the word. If you can be, if you want to be picky about things, you can be picky about anything, really. But like,
oh well, I wanted to be picky about that just because like, I don't know. I find it interesting that people do like claim to do things with completely selfless. Like they claim to do things that benefit them in no way at all, and just sometimes it's difficult to grasp that idea.
see, but I guess it doesn't. It comes from a place of when you don't even talk about it. I guess it's not. I think what makes it selfless is not talking about it, which makes it ironic that I told my story. So,
Oh, I mean, given the conversation, it makes sense.
I guess, but like, I think when you actually can do something and not even speak about it, that makes it more selfless because you have no gain on it.
Yeah, you're not taking social.
Yeah, and you're at the same time not thinking like I'm not going to tell anyone because that was a selfless act and I must keep it to myself because that's what makes it selfless. Like I feel like the idea of just not having to explain to anyone or not even having to go through that thought process makes it selfless.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Nah, mad.
Sick.
Hell yeah. Episode up. No, I'm kidding.
Wrap it up.
Well, we didn't finish the good and bad actually.
No. It's just I took us on a quick detour.
So we have selfless. So with that being said though, and throwing it back, we have selfishness and selfless now, which makes it. See, we talk about selfishness in the negative connotation, but is selfishness really always negative? I don't think so.
No, there's no way it's always negative.
No, thinking about yourself isn't negative at all. I guess when does it become negative?
Dude, it's hard to put a strict definition on that, right? Because even things that might disadvantage other people aren't necessarily
negative, but they're
bad
negative for
thing.
them and positive for you.
Yeah, but that doesn't inherently make it an evil thing, does it?
I mean,
I mean,
from their point of view, it might.
yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah,
a perspective thing.
it would be.
But I can't even think of an example that's good, that disadvantages a good number of people. I guess it comes down to ethics. It comes down to morality, like like the utilitarianism and that type of stuff.
I guess so, but it comes also to like relationships, for example. Like something. I don't know. You're doing something for yourself, and then you leave another person as stray. It doesn't necessarily need to be like a loving relationship, but like even a friendship, right?
Yep.
You do something for yourself, and you leave that person with a negative connotation of you per se. I don't actually have an example now, though. That's bad.
Yeah. No, I get you.
Damn. The lack of examples makes it hard.
It does. It does.
But to throw it back though, good and evil, right?
Am I crazy to say that it feels like there's more evil in the world than good? Currently, like that, and that's just a very vague statement.
I don't know.
I'm not really looking at much.
See, I don't know because, and the reason because I don't know is can't really measure the amount of evil or good, right? It's not a measured force, especially because even by what we're talking about.
Oh, actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna take it back. I take that question back. I think that just goes straight back to what we were saying.
It's a point of view
in the freedom thing, where it's like outside of our personal experiences, I haven't witnessed much evil.
No.
Like, period, right? Like, any evil that I'm talking about, or like, this idea that there's more evil than good, is an idea fully orchestrated by, like, whatever I'm seeing on the internet, and that's determined by, like,
that's so true.
Outside of my control.
And the things that I would call evil in my experience would be things that I did, and they came back to bite me, basically.
Yeah, right.
So,
and they're going to be very small things. Like,
yeah,
not necessarily evil things.
No, 100%. They would have just been things that happened, and they just left again a negative connotation towards it. And is negative really evil? Not necessarily. Some people do probably experience evil a lot more than we do. For example, someone who has been like kidnapped or something, or someone who's like a Ukraine right now. Those are people who are actually suffering evil. We don't.
Yeah, 100%. I was thinking of like rape as a big evil.
Yeah.
Do you reckon this? I mean, I'm not very religious, but do you reckon that's just why people turn to religion to find, like, to balance, to find the good? To give a compass for the good and evil. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, see the way I see religion a very not all religions, but I see Christianity specifically in a very low high ground. Unfortunately, no low ground, no, not low high ground, just low ground. Just because it's a very obvious. They really orchestrated this obvious way to like try to manipulate people into doing the right thing when things were completely out of whack. Yeah. So it had a very positive influence back in the day, which then led to corruption, which then led to what we have now, which is like good to a lot of people, but at the same time just useless to others.
Yeah, it's good for a lot of people. Great for some,
and just very disadvantageous for others.
And then some people really, really ain't doing it.
Yeah, I mean, people who like get they get like racist people talking to them. So like Christians, I'm sorry, Christians out there. If you're not racist, that's so chill. But like.
I don't mind Christians.
Very linked, unfortunately, to racism, homophobia, to like ethnical issues. So this is my quarrel with Christianity and most religions that follow that one God, is that there is a lot of negative things that come from it. Like there are a lot of positives, sure. There's a lot of people who are good from it, and that's awesome. And a lot of them are my friends, and I fucking love that. But there's a lot of bad that comes from it as well, which is like I've grew up with, unfortunately.
It's the devil, Dan. They're taking them away from the path of good.
No, but see, that's the thing,
they
though.
need more guidance.
No, but that's the complete opposite, though. If you follow the Bible to a T, you will believe that someone that's gay is going to hell, and you should do something about it, right? If you're not following the Bible by the T, then you accept gay people, and that's awesome. It's just the same idea with like even Muslim religions, where like you have extremists and you have non-extremists.
Yeah.
And that happens in every religion, in everything, really. You have people who believe it too much and it causes good but also bad things, and you have people who coordinate their religion with their beliefs that are outside of religion, which is not completely following the religion as well.
Yeah, that's not like the point of the religion.
Yeah, someone who I would call a good Christian, someone who doesn't follow Christianity by the T, if that makes sense.
Like, yeah, I guess. I've always understood that like Christianity good, the church bad. Like I understand you probably have to have a place to go worship your God. Like I get that.
I reckon the church is actually not bad.
No?
I've been to church. It's nice. They talk about like this word. They talk about like the scenarios of like the different parts of when things in the Bible happen. Actually, kind of cool. I used to go to Hillsong, and they used to like read the quote or whatever, and they would like talk about something that happened on their lives to relate to it, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I've heard similar things.
Yeah.
From school.
And then I have like the youth thing, which I just like met a lot of people on, and they were like all people with like fairly nice beliefs actually. So the church itself I never found to be the problem, apart from obviously their corruption and they're taking the money and etc.
Yeah, and
but
all
they're
the kiddie feeling and
they're sharing beliefs that are good.
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean. Like I get that there's probably like you have to have a place where everyone who practices religion comes together and joins, and like a place to worship the God, but like as an institution, it's not a great thing to follow.
No. See, that's the thing, though.
I don't have any personal experience to do.
I feel like the church and the followers kind of follow the same line. You have good and like you have good and bad.
Yeah.
You have more, for example, conservative churches, and you have less conservative churches.
Are there rules for Christianity?
Yeah, there are.
Like strict rules outside of the Ten Commandments, or
see, that's a good question. I don't even know how to answer that one. I've been to church quite a bit, but I do not know that.
Yeah, I don't know either.
There are rules, for example.
Because like this is like I think I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I could just be completely wrong on this. But I thought it was kind of like different churches will preach different like attitudes, beliefs. Like some of the Christian churches in like
kinda. See, Christianity falls into Protestants. Yeah. So you have like different. I almost ruined that word. You have like different. So you have other churches that follow the same sort of path, but it's not the same beliefs. So you have like Lutheran, for example, which is another one. So it's like there's a lot of like very small different beliefs in between those churches. So I guess it can get pretty confusing on that sense.
Yeah.
But they do have hard rules, for example, in like sexuality and etc.
Goddamn.
Yeah.
Just because I guess it would get confusing if different churches were preaching different goods and different evils.
No, they usually preach the same-ish good and evils.
Goods and evils.
They have like small different beliefs, I believe, but not like noticeable things. Actually, really funny. There was this guy in England. He was a king, and he created his own church from the Catholic Church, so he could marry another woman. so he could like separate.
What?
Yeah, so he could separate because that was not allowed in kings back in the day. So you would only be able to separate if your wife or whatever died or your partner died.
Yeah.
So you'd be able to, only then you can remarry. But this guy was like, no.
I'm just creating a new church and getting married under the new church.
Correct. With another woman. And separate from this woman because he wasn't happy with it. Pretty sure he murdered one of his wives as well.
I was about to say that's mans would just murder.
Yeah.
He'd be like, we can only divorce if she's dead. Oh well, looks like you've only left with one option, church.
He was pretty crazy. He was like a dictator of some kind back in England.
Wait, does that rule only apply to kings? Because that's a pretty unfortunate rule. You'd probably just have a lot of wives being murdered. Right, if it's like
That fall into
divorce.
Catholic Church in general. You just went. Oh, maybe they follow just. I don't know how Catholicism went back in the day, man. I'll be honest.
Like I know that you can only get married under the church once.
Yeah.
Like I know that's a thing. Like if you get married under the church and then you divorce and want to get remarried.
But that's in the Catholic Church, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can't.
I think the Christian Church you can remarry if you separate. See, that's something coming out of no research here. But I think there's a thing like that.
What, Catholic and Christian, I think. Oh, I think they're the same thing.
They're not.
Probably wrong.
They're not. So one of the things that I remember being different is the guy who preaches at the church, a Catholic priest cannot marry. A Christian priest or a Christian guy who speaks, he can marry. They can marry, rather. It's usually a male taken role, but nowadays it's more included, which is good.
Yeah. I've looked this up.
But that is one thing that I remember being that being a thing. That was like a difference between the two. They're not the same thing, though.
No, I looked it up.
I think Christianity doesn't have the saints, where Catholicism has the saints.
It's one of these. All Catholics are Christians, but not all Christians are Catholics. So I don't.
Yeah. It's a wild one. Just ask my mum. Honestly, she'll know. She'll know better on that one.
But goddamn, I'm just saying, right? If like back in the day you couldn't get divorced, the only way you could separate legally or under the church is if one of them died. You see a lot of murders, right?
I mean, back then it wasn't that common to separate. It just wasn't. Like it's not like nowadays. They just followed a really different set of beliefs. It was a lot different. And they died a lot younger as well, so you have less time with your partner regardless. But no, people just follow a different rule in general because what is the point of separating? You know, you living a peasant life. You probably still going to bordels and doing that sort of stuff, but it doesn't really matter.
It's like the person to replace them is the lifestyle is going to be much the same.
It just follows the same. It just follows different beliefs. Maybe someone murdered their family. You know, who knows? There were more savagery days anyway, but I feel like they were a lot less free to do whatever they wanted than we are now.
A lot less free to just like up and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot more probably dependent on a two-person.
Well, my mum said this the other day. She was like, I feel like nowadays people are just like, they just give up on a relationship so easily. And my follow-up thought was, isn't that a good thing in a way though? She's like, no, you don't. People back then, they used to like reach their limits before doing anything. And as far as I know about old religious couples, is that they were completely sad with each other. They wouldn't even sleep on the same bed. But they would still be married because of the beliefs of the church. So
that's wild. I mean,
in my brain, I'm like, well,
like, look,
I think it's better now.
Like, yeah, look, it's in my vision, in my brain, it's very situational, you know. Like I'm gonna tend to agree or be like, yeah, it's probably better if people put in the effort to,
People
you
still
know,
put in the
stick around a
effort though.
relationship. But like, if someone cheats on you, like I'm gonna give that relationship up pretty quick. Yeah, hell yeah.
See, my
And
mum
it's,
wouldn't
that's
think that
that's
though.
pr- uh,
She would disagree with that. She'd be like, "Yeah, but
yeah, like
it's weird, man. I don't know." See, this is where I'm like, there's good Christianity and there's bad Christianity.
maybe there's more of that stuff happening that would ruin a relationship would happen now than in the past.
Maybe I think it's very. See, that's where I tend to agree with her in a sense. I feel like back in the day, maybe they had more background to what relationships should look like.
Yeah,
We
well,
don't. I have
that's
no idea what a relationship really should look like.
I think that's exactly what I'm getting at. In that, like, there was a very traditional like roles, and you
They
know,
were really unhappy though, and it was frowned upon to separate. You'd be
yeah,
judged
that's
by your peers and like your whole society for
yeah,
splitting up.
and
So it
then
was
yeah,
scary to do so.
and it probably puts you in yeah like good situations and bad situations because yeah, you probably have people who like stick out a relationship and like are better off for it. You know, if you're putting effort in and reaping the rewards of a happy relationship as a result. But then you probably have husbands that cheat on their wives, and then the wives that don't want to suffer the social discourse of
But they
breaking up.
still they still would, even if they broke up on those terms. Is the
Well, yeah,
thing.
that's what I mean. Like, but if traditionally, right, if you don't want to separate, so
No,
you have to suffer.
exactly. You just suffer through,
So probably,
which is a terrible life to
yeah,
live.
exactly. It's probably pushing it like a good and evil, huh?
And someone who's cheating, I don't know how far they are from abusing their wives, because I was gonna say, oh, they can probably just do the same thing, right? And my
Yeah,
second
no,
thought is probably not,
not, not,
actually.
not, not, nah. Probably go that far back in history. Probably not.
No, it's actually wild how it works. But see, this is one thing that I find very funny is that that is a really bad thing of that religion stated in our society. The whole difference between men and women. I know there's an inherent difference on like who hunts and who stays at home, but religion was the one who started
We're
the
all equal.
no,
What do you?
far from it.
Yeah.
The woman has to stay at home and wash the dishes and like pray for God. That's religion,
Is
dude.
that is that
100%. Back in like Renaissance, that's like back in Renaissance, we already like were kind of equals at that point. Everyone would work in factories. I think we spoke about this.
yeah.
Like there was no inherent difference on our like societal rules. If you were a rural family, you would all go to the fields and pick up because you don't want to pick up slack from anyone.
Yeah.
You just have a bunch of kids and someone would have to take care of them, but usually would be the really young kids. They would take care of the
And
babies.
it was a religious idea to push the separation.
Well,
I mean,
it kind of happened, yes, like the whole women can vote and all that sort of stuff. The whole ideas started there because like in ancient Greek as well, you come back, we were pretty similar in like sort of a lot of aspects in life. Maybe not military. I feel like military was a big thing that never really changed until nowadays. Which I guess it kind of makes sense. But like, I find that very interesting, to be honest.
what's this? The military.
Military never took women in. I don't really know
That was my understanding
of
why
my history understanding any armies.
why they didn't get the vote. That could be I don't know what that's based on. Probably some crap I've seen online. Is that like
It was pretty religious based. The whole diminishing of women, because it's not only the diminishing of women, but it just made it really hard for them to get out of that stigma, because it was unnatural to be anything else.
yeah, I guess it favors capitalism and shit for women to work.
Well, it just You just can't follow the same standard now because we need everyone on board.
Yeah,
Um,
no, 100%.
it's not really a case
Unless you
of
have,
choice anymore.
yeah, yeah, like that, and that's what happens when like, yeah, once it was undone, it was kind of undone
Yeah.
for good. Like 100%. Like you'd have to be making so much now to be able to support a family on a single income.
Oh, 100%.
Like
Yeah.
unrealistic.
Unrealistic, 100%. You need the two partners if you want to have a family.
Yeah.
Um, which back in the day, I guess it wasn't necessary.
It makes sense though that was a religious thing to push. I wonder like why like I guess it's just in the Bible, but like
I think how it began, it was just how it was, and then
like
when it
caveman
was time to move forward from
caveman
it,
days.
there was a barrier, which was religion at that point in time.
Yeah,
I'm sure we would have found something else because
because I know there was a massive economic boom the second you have like all the women entering the workforce.
the Russians were the only ones who stated women actually in war. That's why they were considered savages. One of the many reasons they were considered savages.
For enlisting women.
They would enlist everyone, yeah. Which makes sense, I find. I know there's the whole stigma, but like anyone holding a gun, sure they can't carry heavier things
Yeah.
than certain men, but like
Well,
if
I
you're
guess
all drunk, it doesn't really matter.
yeah. If you're all sipping on vodka and
Nah.
rushing in and
That's the thing, though. Like, woman build can change a lot as well. That's one thing that we don't really like visualize because of our nowadays standard of like a successful woman would look like.
right.
So we have like a successful woman that would like obviously boost like an idea of a woman with like a suit or something, right?
Yeah,
In a
yeah.
company. And then you have like a successful man who would probably be the similar, and then we have the successful man on the army, and we think of like a tenant or something, and then a successful woman in the army. We don't really have a picture of that. Like I don't,
guess.
at least.
I mean, it's interesting that you tie success to like a business suit,
Yeah, that's true. I was gonna make another point, but I
like
guess
career based.
they would always kind of go into suit anyway. But it doesn't really matter. What I was actually trying to say is that we don't really have an image of women in the army. Like back in the day when the Russians enlisted women in the army,
Yeah.
it was a lot different. They didn't have the technology we have.
I mean, I see heaps of like advertising for women in the army in Australia.
Yeah, that's not what I mean though. That's something that they're pushing now.
Yeah.
Back when
Like
the
why
Russians
like
enlisted
why it never
it,
happened.
they just
originally.
literally just had them, and they were a lot stronger. They were trained for years alongside like everyone else, like any other human being in that state. While nowadays we're pushing
Yeah.
it, and we still treat the two
I guess you're right.
genders differently.
I guess it would have been based on those like that idea that was pushed by religion, right? And you just wouldn't want to tarnish that by like making them a warrior or making them a
No,
soldier.
exactly. But women can look terrifying, dude. Like they can be just. I know this is a weird thing to say because I don't even believe it fully nowadays because I just don't see it enough.
I mean,
But
look,
women can be just strong as men, or at least be stronger than like a little shitty man that
Right,
exists
but,
nowadays.
like I don't know. From my boxing experience, you'd be very hard pressed to find a woman who would beat a guy. Like I think when you
I'm pretty sure there are women that would be able to beat you, though, easily. That are like stayed on the UFC. I know you're cocky right now about your abilities, but I'm pretty sure.
Look, bro, you can come down to the gym any day and you can watch a fucking 5-year-old or like a 7-year-old beat up a 16-year-old girl. It's like a 20-something-year-old girl. It's nuts.
That's not my
But,
point
like,
at all.
I guess I agree.
We are using our common beliefs because we have proportionally a lot more men training for everything else than women, so proportionally we will win most of the time.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think combat, hand-to-hand combat, it's probably not fair to put a woman up against a guy. But if you're handing them guns, then like I think there's different.
I'll stand by my point that I feel like there's a lot of strong women that I wouldn't I wouldn't try to fight. I watch, for example, UFC, and those girls, I wouldn't touch them.
Oh, yeah, you look at
Yeah,
the most elite fighters in the world,
yeah. The only
and
ones
you
that
wouldn't fight them.
the
Yeah,
only ones that train for it. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
but
my exact point. When there's more men doing something, of course you have a more variety of something. Yeah, if you're training everyone as equals, then you will have a very, very equal proportionality, because you still have someone who's strong. It doesn't matter if they're stronger than the strongest man warrior. It just matters that they're able to finish a task that is very common in the military.
yeah, and
It
this is what I
doesn't.
mean.
It isn't an extra task.
Like I agree. Like in kind of everything outside of like physical combat. Yeah,
I disagree with you on that. I would love to see you getting beat up.
yeah, dude.
By a chick.
I'm down, dude. Find
Just for the cockiness, because I already know it can happen.
you find me, man.
uh,
Find a woman that you think can beat me up, and
probably could. I can probably think of it already.
Yeah.
One of my managers could definitely beat you up. Easily. Not from skill, just from sheer force and weight.
sheer force and weight.
Yeah, she would destroy you. I would never, ever.
What am I just gonna get like sat on or something?
Probably.
Suffocated to death.
Probably for your cockiness, you would. See, there are different builds, man. It's just very hard to pinpoint, because see that our common belief now just causes that exact idea to happen, that
Yeah.
someone is unable to do it, but if you train, you can get it anywhere, man. It's just the idea of you have a lot more men doing something versus a very minimal amount of women doing something.
I mean, I still disagree though, because I think like I guess you're comparing put them through the same training, right? But I'm thinking of it as like, you know, they're putting them through the same training, and that training involves pushing you to your limit to make you the most elite version of like that you could be.
I
think
I would like you to research that a little bit. Just because I think you will be surprised on what you actually will find. Because yes, naturally men can be stronger than women.
Yeah.
But the thing here is, I'm not actually trying to compare the idea of the elite men versus the elite women.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to compare, for example, elite women versus the common people.
Right, but if you're enlisting them in the army, they're not versing
But they will.
people.
But they will be elite. And like most
but I guess
people,
what you're saying
when
is
when
like
a war breaks out, it's not only the elite people that go to war. I think that's one thing that you have to understand. One reason why the Russians destroyed the German army is because
they just enlisted random people.
They enlisted literally everyone, and just by amounts of people, they easily destroyed.
Yeah.
They by number and by obviously tactics, they had good generals as well. But like just the amount of people that were on that army destroy the other army who didn't use women. Why? Weird, right?
That's wild.
Yeah. So that's the thing. If you can like,
because
I love how we went on this tangent now.
Yeah,
but
no. Like I'm not even separating them into like women and men. I'm just like now you're just looking at like incompetent people versus like just beef up numbers.
But the German army wasn't incompetent. They obviously were just super tired because of the long campaign they were going through. But like, they lost due to sheer numbers. Simple.
That's crazy. I mean, look, it sounds like a strategy that worked, and
it can still work.
That's it. I think like in modern times, it definitely would 100% work. Because everyone has hella guns, and you know everyone has their own position in the army. Probably
and plus technology as well.
Like you're probably not going to have that many like female SEAL ops, you know? Like,
100%. But I mean, they are increasing as well, which is not. I don't find it even to be a bad thing. There's not much.
It's not a bad thing.
There's not really much body to body contact anymore in a war.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It like
That's what I was
regardless.
like. I tend to agree and
I
like
think that stopped happening like for so many hundreds of years now. Like it probably would have been. I guess when archers were around, there was still like a lot of body contact. But as soon as guns started being a thing, there already wasn't that much body contact
yeah,
anymore.
like there's probably very little to separate.
Yeah, and then you have like hella guns, which would be like cannons and etc. Like
Yeah,
they will destroy a whole infantry pretty easily. Um, so yeah, it is interesting. I guess if we go into like body contact and martial arts is like a thing really for your personal life. If you take that to war, it could be helpful if you like find yourself in a very very specific situation with like other enemies, but what will probably be happening most of the time is you holding a gun shooting at other people.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess yeah.
Which is why I agree that it's strange that I don't know.
In the Second World War, they already had tanks and all that, so there was already no a lot of body contact. But like, it's a pretty hard body wise thing to happen. So like, you have to obviously go for like long periods walking with like heavy loads.
Yeah.
So that's where the training comes from, I guess. Have you seen Russian women? Not the ones in
No.
like
No.
fair, but like the army ones, they're beefy, man. They're scary.
I'd believe, man. I think
They're scary.
all Russians are scary.
Most of them, hey, but I think it's like a cultural thing, bro. That's
It's
the thing.
100% a cultural thing. 100%.
Yeah, that's fine.
Even the attitudes. Even the attitudes.
No.
Like. Even the attitudes. I feel. I haven't met them, so I don't. I'm not commenting. But
No, I never met them either. I just seen images, which is pretty of army things. Of historical moments.
that's hilarious.
It is funny. I do love how both of our brains went there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think this is enough. We didn't really conclude the good and evil stuff, though.
No, we didn't. We did. We did just do.
We went on
massive,
2 tangents.
Yeah, we just did massive tangents.
Yeah.
I mean, good and evil was a hard one to wrap up. It's a hard one to
It's a hard one to conclude.
like. I believe that there are good and evils.
I believe
Yes.
there are good and evil due to morality.
Yes.
If morality didn't exist, there wouldn't be good and evil. However, there is morality.
Like,
So
morality only exists from your perspective. Like it's a perspective-based thing. So the good and evil is going to be based
it's all
on your
perspective.
your perception as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, 100%.
it's true. But then we have like we have the moral standard perception, right? If we see someone stealing money from someone, most people, if not like 99% of the people, will be like, "That's a bad act." Meanwhile, the thief,
Yeah,
is,
but it's again like you can't like. I'm gonna stand here and go like, well, but, like, why are you stealing? You know, you can't just label it as a bad act.
but that falls into other
I have to-
crimes, quote unquote.
Well, I have to steal this money because I'm poor and I have no other way to buy this single medication for my mum that's gonna die if I don't get it. You know what I mean? Yeah, oh
See-
yeah, okay, stealing pump. Yeah, okay.
That's usually not the case, though, is it?
No, it's not the case, but
It's usually
it's a matter of
I
perspective,
need to
you know?
steal this money to buy drugs.
And if I don't get the drugs,
I'll be unhappy.
I'll die. I'll have withdrawals and I'll die.
Maybe they can
Is
stop.
that,
They can
is that
stop.
what you want me to want it to happen to me?
But they can go into treatment, which doesn't kill them.
Imagine you went up to a stranger and did that. How you're like, dude, I am so poor. I have no money, but I need $50 to buy some crack because if I don't get this crack, I'll have withdrawals and die.
Pretty sure there's a lot of people in Brazil who steal like that. It's a noble cause, honestly. It's funny. It's funny because
You're like, yeah, I'll
I
give
want to go
you.
another tangent.
Go on, go on.
It's funny that drugs and that sort of stuff causes such a um like unbalanced lifestyle. For example, someone who uses crack but still has like some moral to them will be like, look, I don't want to lie to you.
they just break it even. They're like, yo, bro.
I use crack, but I really need that crack.
You're like, I'm trying to quit. I'm reducing how much I use, but if I go cold turkey forever from now on, I die. And I can't afford any more of it.
Please give me $10. Nah.
Moral.
I remember baggers. I think they do. I don't know. Oh, they do it in Australia too, actually. But baggers just being like, "Can I please have some money?" And you give them money, and they definitely go to the bottler to buy alcohol. I know this because I worked at a bottler, but
Yeah. Every time I've ever thought of like giving money to homeless people, I'm like, you should just go and get like Woolies gift cards.
I never thought over it. I either have money or I don't really. I don't really care if they buy alcohol, which is the funny part. It's like their life sucks, man. They might as well, you know. Like if it's a coping mechanism, sure. But I guess you're just feeding into something that's not good for them as well. But it's not your job to like
No.
put that ethical dilemma,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Uh huh.
It's like, is that a selfless act?
To give money to homeless.
Even though you probably know they're going to spend on something that is inherently negative for them. You're just doing it for like literally for them. You're just like, yeah, here you go, man. It's
Well, that's what I
fine.
mean. Like, I guess in my argument, I go, oh, because it makes you feel good.
But does it
Helping.
you feel good though? Because they're
like,
definitely gonna buy alcohol and drugs.
you're like, am I really helping
that
them?
sucks, but it's probably good for them. It's not my job to think about it.
I'll have to talk. We'll have to talk to a homeless person one day because, like, I have never had a conversation with them, but I genuinely believe that the majority of them, like, do not want to be homeless. Like, realistically, they're probably never taught that alcohol.
I have
Addiction is
talked to
bad.
homeless people. There was this one guy specifically that I remember. He became an alcoholic, I'm pretty sure, and he. What happened?
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember. Sorry, it was a very long time ago. It was like
No,
during
that's
COVID. It was when a lot of homeless people were living indoors because the government was giving them apartments to be in.
Oh, yep.
So I was working in the city and I had a lot of homeless people always come by the bottler. But they weren't homeless at the time because they were living in apartments. But the stories they told me were pretty crazy. But this guy, he wasn't actually that crazy of a story. He was just explaining to me why he was homeless, and I believe it was because he was an alcoholic. He literally could not stop or didn't want to stop. Lost his family, as in like his family just didn't want anything to do with him. Probably because he was abusive or something of the sort, right?
Yeah.
Obviously something that he wouldn't tell me, but lost his family. And like when he was alone, he just spent all his money and then he had to like go live in the streets because he didn't have anything to his name basically. So like this guy just lived with like not talking to his kids, being completely like living completely without money on the streets and just coping with alcohol, obviously. So the alcoholism didn't go away, but everything did.
Wow, bro, man really loves alcohol, huh?
It's a coping mechanism, dude. That's the thing. It is an addiction. It's bad.
Yep.
It can be very bad. People like make fun of it. I even have made fun of it before. Like, it's like you drink like 2 days in a row and you're like, I'm an alcoholic. Funny. But the reality is alcoholism is actually
Yeah, it's just
an actual disease.
It's just an addiction like every other addiction.
Yeah, but it's strong. It's one of the worst ones. And there are documents saying the alcohol is one of the worst drugs there are.
I mean, makes sense, I guess. Like, I will, like, when you compare it to the other,
I think it makes sense
hella
because
bad
it's
drugs.
pretty allowed to be used.
But, like, it makes
But-
sense in terms of if you were to consume it every day, you'd probably have some pretty, pretty negative effects on you.
And the fact that you just simply can.
Yeah, it's legal.
It's easy to just do it.
Everywhere. Yeah, like,
It's not that expensive. Like,
you probably witnessed, there's probably researched because there's probably way more cases of it than any other
yeah, I mean,
addiction. Like, there is going to be cases of other, but like,
it just makes sense purely because it's
more people-
widely available
yeah, more
for
people-
everyone.
Yeah. Like, alcoholism will probably affect more lives than other drugs.
And alcohol alters you. Like someone who's addicted to cigarettes, for example, doesn't really get altered
Yeah.
as much. There is a feeling to it, but you don't get like altered like a
Yeah.
For example,
when talking about
weed
like,
for
yeah.
to put it out there. So like if weed was legal, we'd probably see a lot more people high in the streets, for example.
Yeah. Dude, we could just keep going on tangents because like
Should weed be legal?
well, no. It's like well, if weed was legal, then people would probably move away from other drugs that are worse.
Do you tend to believe that though?
Yeah, I 100% believe that, but I also think that there's gonna be way more people who would never have smoked or who like aren't gonna smoke, who are much more likely to get addicted now that it's legal. Same with alcohol.
I believe it should be legal for different reasons, but I don't think it would steer someone away. Someone that uses cocaine now, for example, I don't think weed being legal would keep them away from cocaine.
No, I think the comparison I heard was opioid users.
Opioid users.
So I think stuff. I don't really know what an opioid is. I think
Opioid is like heroin and heroin.
Yeah.
That's the only one I know, I think.
Yeah, stuff
Damn.
like that.
Nah, I can't remember.
No, I reckon it shouldn't be a criminal. Like,
But how?
shouldn't
It's
go to jail
just
for it.
it doesn't make sense though, because it's a lot harder to find one than the other.
Or heroin.
It's a lot, yeah. Well, since heroin is the only opioid that I know, I'm only going to talk about heroin here.
Yeah. Well.
Heroin's hard to find.
Well, I've never looked.
I never looked, but I've purchased other things,
yeah.
and I never heard of the seller selling heroin as well.
Yeah.
Only recently at the pub where I work, I was talking to my regulars, and I was like, "Is heroin a thing that is used in Australia? Because I don't hear much of it." And they're like, "Yeah, heavily used." And I'm like, "Where?
He's like,
Who
back at
uses-
my house, man. Folk."
Who uses them? Have you used it? No. Have you used it? No. What?
Do you know anyone who does? No. Where are you pulling this from?
What do you mean it's heavily used? It doesn't make any sense. I know Melbourne has facilities for heroin addicts.
Yeah, I mean, people's idea of like a lot of people is probably going to be like
A very low amount of people.
Yeah.
Just because of terrible drugs to use.
like
So like one is already a lot.
right, like
It's like it's a terrible drug. I heard of one person using it. There's a lot
so
of
many people using it. I saw 10 people on the news using it.
Meanwhile, like everyone I know has smoked pot.
Yeah. We're gonna do our best not to criminalize ourselves on the podcast.
It's fine.
But-
Maybe we're localized in America. Who knows?
Maybe. I think it should be decriminalized at least. Like,
I think it should be decriminalized as well. I don't think it should be illegal. I
It
actually
shouldn't-
don't
it
think a
shouldn't
lot
be
of. I
illegal.
don't think a lot of drugs should be illegal. For many reasons.
I reckon
I think we talked about this.
this
Haven't we?
is a conversation for another episode.
I think
honestly.
so too. It's getting long, and this is just like another long.
We
tangent.
haven't done a drug episode.
We haven't. I know we have very different views on it, which would be a fun episode to make.
It'd be a fun episode to make.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we'll cut it in here for now.
Yeah. Well, I'm still amazed that. I mean, Do you reckon anyone makes it to the end of these episodes?
I don't know. There were a lot of tangents this one. I don't.
I don't.
I don't even know. We actually never finished the good and bad one. We went to. Oh, I guess we did a quick conclusion on it. But
Yeah, look, I'm happy to say we briefly summarized it. It was difficult. We kind of chose it and then just jumped in and didn't know where to go.
That's so true. I mean, we went in interesting tangents, so
Yeah. Well,
not mad.
if you've made it to the end, we appreciate the hell out of you because that's awesome.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram.
Oh yeah, I haven't posted anything on there in ages.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a photo of like. Should we?
Well,
whoever follows us on Instagram, give us some ideas on what we should post because we can just post our like normal lives that is like away from the podcast, or we can just post podcast things as well. So let us know what you want to see, I guess.
I just message us. Just say hi. Actually, if you've reached this point.
Yeah, if you reach this point, send us a message on Instagram.
Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be dope. That'd be dope.
What's the name of the Instagram?
DNE underscore podcast.
There we go. Now you know.
All lowercase.
Don't forget. All right. Have a good night, guys, or good day,
or a good
whenever
day,
you sit
or a good
listening.
evening, or a good morning. You never know. Well,
That's true.
we will catch you in the next episode.
Goodbye.
See yous.